Non-invasive prenatal testing screening has been around for a decade now, as long as DNA Today, and the technology has evolved in those 10 years. The screening started to detect Down syndrome, and now Billion to One's Unity screen assesses for the chance for pregnancies to have aneuploidies, which are extra or missing chromosome conditions, recessive conditions like cystic fibrosis and sickle cell, and the presence of red blood cell fetal antigens. Billion to One named the screening Unity Screen as it brings together fetal screening for aneuploidies and recessive conditions. And it represents uniting pregnant patients in more equitable care. Unity does not require a blood sample from the other biological parent or sperm donor to assess fetal risk. This enables more pregnancies at risk to be affected with recessive conditions to be identified early in pregnancy as compared to traditional carrier screening. Billion to One is working towards one goal: to detect disease one molecule at a time. Know early with one simple blood test. Visit unityscreen.com for more information. And stay tuned for our upcoming episodes with Billion to One, exploring non-invasive prenatal screening for recessive conditions and red blood cell fetal antigens.
How is it that we find ourselves surrounded by such complexity, such elegance?
The genes of you and me, the genes of you and me, we're all made of DNA. We're all made of the same chemical DNA. We're all made of DNA.
Hi, you're listening to DNA Today, a podcast and radio show where we discover new advances in the world of genetics. From genetic technology like CRISPR to rare diseases to new research, we have you covered. For a decade, DNA Today has brought you the voices of leaders in genetics. I'm Kira Dineen. I'm a certified genetic counselor and your host. A new year means a new podcast. I'm thrilled to announce that I am a co-producer of a new rare disease and medical challenges podcast called It Happened to Me. In celebration of our launch, I want to share an upcoming episode of the show where the co-hosts, Cathy Gildenhorn and Beth Glassman, interview me. Be sure to subscribe to It Happened to Me in your podcast player. So wherever you're listening to DNA Today right now, just search It Happened to Me. We have already released 3 episodes earlier this week, including one where we flip roles and I interview Cathy and Beth about their patient advocacy and stories. You can look at the show notes or go to dnatoday.com for direct links if that's easier for you. We would really appreciate a rating and review on Apple and Spotify. This is key for a successful launch. Hope you enjoy the show. You're listening to It Happened to Me, a rare disease and medical challenges podcast. The mission of our podcast is to support you, our listeners, and to create community as you confront the toughest challenges in life. All of us will experience health hardships. The real question is, how do we adapt? That's the focus of It Happened to Me. We help you overcome limitations and live a full and satisfying life. Drawing on their own health challenges, hosts Cathy Gildenhorn and Beth Glassman interview guests who share stories and research to help you succeed in the face of difficult health obstacles. It happened to me. I'm not alone, and neither are you. We are flipping the roles today. I'm Kira Dineen, co-producer of It Happened to Me. And instead of being behind the scenes on this episode, I wanted to take this opportunity to ask our lovely hosts, Cathy and Beth, about the inspiration behind It Happened to Me and the launch here. So I'm going to be the host and they're going to be the guests. So a little bit of a switcheroo today. But Cathy, I wanted to start with you because the podcast really started with you. When did you first come up with the idea of launching a podcast?
Well, It Happened to Me is really a story of evolution. And for some time, I'd been thinking about starting a podcast, something like Redefining Conversations. That would be an extension of the book that I'm editor and spokesperson for. The book, Redefining Moments, End-of-Life Stories for Better Living, was written by my late father before he passed. But nothing felt quite right because really that's his story. And I then found myself diagnosed with a rare genetic neurodegenerative condition called Wolfram syndrome. And the podcast idea suddenly clicked. I knew what I wanted. And I knew I wanted to create a podcast that enabled all in the medically challenged, healthcare challenged community to know you are not alone. And so it happened to me. I'm not alone, and neither are you. Was born.
And so tell me a little bit more. I mean, what was the motivation behind starting it? Are there certain guests you have in mind, certain experts that you're going to be interviewing? What are the goals that you have in mind? I realize I'm asking you a lot of questions at once, but I want to hear it all.
Yeah, let's start with the goals, because I have three main goals. There's several others that I'll mention today, but my three main goals that happened to me are to create an empowered, supportive community and to share information and to inspire action, whether action for you individually or for you and others. And it happened to me, we'll interview patients, we'll interview family, friends, caregivers, researchers, healthcare professionals, and advocates, hoping to raise awareness, which is super important to me, and to create an empowered and supportive community. Those are so important to me, and I think they serve a real service to our audience and all our listeners, because I think it's important to know you are not alone.
It truly is. And part of you not being alone is having your co-host. So Cathy, why did you invite Beth to join you as your co-host? What makes the two of you fit to host It Happened to Me?
Well, I gotta say that happened organically. Beth is a wonderful friend, and we really understand each other. And I love it. I've got to say, it's a really healthy combination because we're similar, but also have some different perspectives and styles too, which bring a whole element to the conversation that's very nice for future future interviewees and in our dialogue, because we look at things a little differently, and I think that's so healthy for the show. And with Beth, it just fit, and I'm so lucky because I asked and Beth said yes.
So Beth, why did you say yes? Why did you agree to be a co-host?
Well, Cathy has been talking about this podcast for a long time. I had really no idea what she was talking about. But if Cathy asked me to do something, I'm going to say yes regardless, because Cathy is possibly the nicest person on the planet. So spending time with her is a joy for me. But it turns out that in our friendship, we have found out that we share some similar medical issues. We have family members that share other medical issues. So we have traveled a journey together in our own lives. And so we have so much in common. And so it was a perfect fit, because not only do we share medical issues and our family members share medical issues, we share a deep empathy for other people and wanting, as Cathy said, to provide community. That is something we truly are committed to let you know through our podcast that you're not alone. And it's an uplifting message, because we're going to learn from our guests what their coping skills are. And we want to pass that on to our listeners to give you different ways of coping with the challenges you're going to encounter.
And creating community is, as you said, such a core part of this podcast, and really the main goal, and people knowing that they're not alone. How did you two meet? What is your origin story, as we say? I mean, I don't even know how long you guys have known each other. It seems like a long time.
We're looking curveball question.
Beth.
Yes.
It just feels like it fits so perfectly. It was always there.
I was chairing an event.
That's right.
And I reached out to Cathy because I was having a little trouble. And Cathy is a peacemaker. She is a solution provider. And I somehow knew I tend to cut to the chase. Cathy tends to look for solutions to make everyone feel good. And I reached out to her, and she was invaluable in helping me overcome a couple issues in this gala that I was doing. So I think
That's right.
I knew somehow that she is my complement. That she brings everyone in together in such a compatible way that no one even realizes what she's doing because she just gushes kindness. And so she gathers everyone together and everyone feels wonderful. And so I just looked to her for advice, and it was the perfect solution.
Oh.
Yeah, no, really true.
That is true. And the minute I met Beth, we clicked.
We absolutely clicked. We have so much in common. We have law degrees in common. We're the older siblings. We tend to run our families. We have a lot of personality traits that are similar. So that's why we understand each other so well.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's certainly inspiring to see your friendship and, just the camaraderie you bring onto the show, and that you have so many things in common there. Everything you just listed doesn't even include your health challenges, right? So I think that's such a great aspect to highlight, that maybe that's something that originally will bring people together in the rare disease and medical challenges community, but then you end up finding how else you're connecting. And, we've talked about the tagline and coming up with I'm not alone and neither are you, and really that getting the point across of the mission and goal of our podcast. But let's bring it back to actually the podcast name. So It Happened to Me. Cathy, I think you came up with the name, right? How did you end up, choosing this?
I chose it for two reasons, and it wasn't a difficult choice. I wanted something conversational. Again, I started with the concept of redefining conversations, and that wasn't the right fit, but still the notion of something conversational, and that particular name cried out for storytelling and for the $1 million question, what happened to you? And so it just seemed like Beth, an organic fit, and it just came naturally. And the tagline, I'm not alone and neither are you, was also a natural fit, because I always want the key message of It Happened to Me to be, you are not alone. Because I think that's such an important message for anyone at any time, let alone anyone going through any type of challenges.
Yeah, and in the rare disease community, we talk about how rare a disease can be, but together they're quite common. So I think that also really just highlights what we talk about on this show, because, in America, 1 in 10 Americans are affected by a rare disorder or disease. So if you put all the rare disorders together, the 7,000 plus rare disorders, it's actually a common occurrence to happen. And I think that's what we're going to be bringing a lot onto the show. What else do you hope that listeners gain from listening to the show?
Well, the real goal, besides empowering and supportive community, is raising awareness. And that is so important to me, because whether you're medically challenged and you're listening, whether you're have friends or family that are, or whether you're a doctor, or whether you're a researcher, just knowing about things you may not otherwise have known about. And so that you can look at things from a different perspective when you're either deciding on your own treatment or a doctor looking at someone's symptoms. I've had doctors with Wolfram, which is a very rare. There's 30,000 people in the world, and my particular type is way rarer. But I've had doctors, when I explained what it was, thank me for educating them and for telling them about something they did not know about. And I hope that can help everyone look at things outside the box a little more creatively in terms of diagnosis and in terms of treatment, realizing that treating this and treating that may help those individual symptoms. They may not help the whole package. And, or something where, I don't know, I want to do something where we interview professionals about mental health strategies, because you may not have thought about it ahead of time, but it's worth thinking about that when you come up with healthcare and medical challenges, you may confront some mental health issues that if you've given some thought to coming up with a basic plan ahead of time, you're not spending a year finding the right doctors and the right fit. You're ready to go with something like that. And I would like people to be able to suggest that for people now going through it, that, it might be helpful to come up with a strategy for social work or for a professional of some sort or some relationship that can help you tackle your challenges from a little more healthy perspective. And so raising awareness to me is so important,
And
particularly with rare and genetic diseases that are very well known.
And destigmatizing mental health, I think, is just so important. As you're bringing up, it is a huge aspect of the diagnostic odyssey. And once you do have a diagnosis, of going through and learning about the condition that someone has, and, all the different aspects that go with that. And Beth, we were talking a couple days ago, and, you were sharing a little bit about going back to graduation, a commencement speech that you've had that really has been a motif in your life that you've taken on. Can you share about how this commencement speech has resonated with you in your life, and share this experience that you've had and how it's impacted your mindset and your mental health throughout your life?
Absolutely, I'd love to. When I was in college, I graduated, and our commencement speaker was none other than Charlton Heston. He was our commencement speaker because his sister actually taught at the school. But you can only imagine, now this was pre-NRA days, so we had this very famous, this very powerful man standing in front of us with a big voice and bigger than life. And he talked about the filming of Ben-Hur, one of the great movies of all time. And in that movie is a scene that is so lifelike. It's a chariot scene. And it was actual chariots. And sadly, 2 people died in this scene. It is so powerful and realistic. And so Charlton Heston told us that he said to the director, listen, you're getting me a double. No way, no how am I doing this scene? And the director said, yes, you are. You are going to do this scene, and don't worry, just stay on the chariot. And this message has, as Kira has said, it's resonated with me throughout my life. Stay on the chariot. Each of us will hit at some point a divot, a detour, or God forbid, a pothole. But we will. We will face a life challenge. Our chariot may be in the shop for repair, or it may be sidelined for a period of time. The important thing is don't let go. Don't let go. Stay on that chariot. And I can tell you that my chariot has been through divots, detours, and potholes, but it's back out there. It's not quite so shiny. It does have some cracks in the paint, and it doesn't travel quite as quickly as it did at one time. But what I've learned is it's not the speed of the travel, but it's the journey and the people you meet along the way. So this really dovetails to what we're trying to do. Stay on the chariot. Your chariot is not going to be the fastest, but it doesn't have to be. It just has to go down that road of life. And we want to be with you on that journey to make sure that your ride is as beautiful as you want it to be.
That is just such a beautiful message, and really captures the energy of this show and what you're trying to provide listeners and engage them. And I think another aspect that we've hinted at in terms of the podcast mission has been for people to be able to make informed healthcare choices. And I learned, Beth, that you're the co-chair for the Johns Hopkins Women's Journey. Can you share about your role with this and how it connects back to It Happened to Me?
Yes, this has been very important to me to empower women to make good healthcare choices. And one of the things that we as women do is we don't take time for ourselves. We don't think we're important. And this is a big mistake. So think back when the last time you were on a plane and the steward says, if we hit turbulence and the masks come down, put the mask on yourself before rendering aid to another. That is something so alien to women. We don't do that, but we must. And so the way to empower women and the way that we are going to empower women on all people through our podcast is by providing information. And that's what A Women's Journey does. We have Johns Hopkins doctors speak about their latest research. We will be doing this on the podcast by interviewing researchers and coming up with research, because that's how you make informed healthcare decisions, through knowledge. And there is research to show that when the head of the household, when the women head of the household become ill, the household's general health declines. So it is important to take care of yourself, but it also spreads to your family. Women also tend to be healthcare news spreaders. So we need to take care of ourselves, we need to take care of our families, and we need to spread the word of healthcare advances. So our podcast, we hope, will do that through providing information from our guests, whether they be patients or researchers or doctors or advocates, that we are going to help in that process of education.
Yes, I'm very excited for all the episodes that we're going to be having come out in the near future. Anything else that you guys want to share with the audience before we close out the episode?
No, I'm just thanking our audience for listening to It Happened to Me. And we hope to go to great places. We hope to interview all different sorts of guests, from patients, and as I was saying, patients, family, caregivers, friends, to researchers, doctors, but really important will be what we were talking about, the mental health professionals, because I think it's so important for people to have no stigma there, and a little more, you want a good dentist, you want a good general physician, you want to know you've got a good talking doctor picked out if you need it, or you need a tune-up, or there's such help in being able to do that. So that's what I hope It Happened to Me can also help to make happen.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys for listening. And as Cathy was bringing up, if you guys have any suggestions, comments, questions, ideas, feedback for the show, you can email us directly at ithappenedtomepod@gmail.com. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of It Happened to Me. We encourage you to learn more at ithappenedtomepod.com. That's ithappenedtomepod.com. Please use the contact form on our website to submit your guest suggestions, comments, questions, ideas, and feedback for the show. You can also email us directly at ithappenedtomepod@gmail.com. Again, that's ithappenedtomepod@gmail.com. We would also really appreciate it if you can leave us a 5-star rating and review on your podcast app, probably Apple or Spotify. This helps others in the rare disease and medical challenges community find us. It Happened to Me is created and hosted by Cathy Gildenhorn and Beth Glassman. Steve Holzenbach is our media engineer and co-producer. Myself, Kira Dineen from DNA Today, is our marketing lead and co-producer. Ashlyn Anokian is our graphic designer. And remember, it happened to me. I'm not alone, and neither are you. If if you've been listening to DNA Today for a while, you probably know I'm also a full-time prenatal genetic counselor. Between that job, this podcast, and being a producer, host of other podcasts, I'm pretty busy. So to keep up my energy and stay productive, I drink a decent amount of coffee. Think like Lorelai Gilmore, but maybe not quite that much. The new coffee I'm drinking is from Four Sigmatic, and I'm really picky about my coffee. It's got to be bold, not watery. That is the worst. I still drink it if I have to, but it's not my favorite. And I have to say, I've been really happy with Four Sigmatic. Here's the difference from other coffees. It includes mushrooms, which I know sounds bizarre. I will admit I was hesitant, but you don't taste the mushroom at all, and you get the health benefits from it. I like the immune system boost as I often get sick in the winter months, so this is really important. And I wanted to team up with Four Sigmatic to get you 30% off using promo code DNA Today, and you can redeem it at foursigmatic.com. Again, that's four, spell it out, F-O-U-R, Sigmatic, S-I-G-M-A-T-I-C.com. Use code DNA Today for 30% off, and let me know if you like it too. As a listener of DNA Today, you've probably heard me talk about NIPT, non-invasive prenatal screening or testing, that looks for extra or missing chromosome conditions during pregnancy. But did you know there's one that can also screen for recessive disorders like cystic fibrosis, sickle cell, and fetal antigens? 1,000,000to1 offers Unity screening, which does all of this from one blood draw from a pregnant person. Visit unityscreen.com for more information, and stay tuned for our upcoming episodes with 1,000,000to1, exploring non-invasive prenatal screening for recessive conditions and red blood cell fetal antigens. For more information about today's episode, visit dnapodcast.com, where you can also stream all episodes of the show. We encourage your questions, comments, guest pitches, and ideas. Send them all into info@dnapodcast.com. Search DNA Today on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, so you can connect with us there. And a favor, please rate and review the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. This truly helps us climb the charts and allow more genetic nerds like yourself to find the show. DNA Today is hosted and produced by myself, Kira Dineen. Our social media lead is Corinne Merlino. Our video lead is Amanda Andrioli. Thanks for listening, and join us next time to discover new advances in the world of genetics.
The genes of you and me, the genes of you and they're all made of DNA. We're all made of the same chemical DNA.